So here's the trick to one of these puzzles. The first thing the computer will do is execute this line. And what does this even do? Well, this var a equals 8 is called a variable declaration. What that does is it makes a new variable, a new space in memory, and it's going to name it a. And into that space, it's going to put the value 8. Why a? Well, because that's right here. And why 8? Because that's right here. So knowing that, you might be able to guess now what this line will do when the computer executes it. It's another variable declaration, so it will make a variable called b, because there's a b right here. And what will it put into it? Another 8. So variables a and b both have an 8 in them. But there are certain lines that can change what's stored in memory, and this is one of those lines. The first thing that's going to happen is the computer will look at what's on the right-hand side of the equals sign. So that's everything over here. And in executing that part, it'll say to itself, okay, well, what is a? What is a? Have I ever seen a before? It'll look into its memory, which is over here in this little table, and it'll see, oh, okay, a has an 8 inside of it. So it'll actually replace that a with an 8. And so now it's 8 minus 6, and that's really easy, right? 8 minus 6 is 2. And what will it do with that? Well, now we think about the rest of this line. So we have a equals 2. So essentially it will evaluate this, it'll know that it equals to 2, and then it'll store that into a. And how does it store something into a? Well, we've already kind of seen that happen before. This slot right here in memory is called a, and if we're going to store 2 in there, we have to clobber what was there before, which was an 8, and now it becomes a 2. Let's try going to the next line. So this line executes now. And like I was saying, the first thing that happens is what's on the right-hand side of the equals sign. That's b minus 4. And the computer, when it executes this line, will ask itself, okay, wait, what is b? Have I ever seen b before? And it has seen b before. It's right over here. It's in memory. In fact, b has an 8 inside of it. So it will replace b with what's stored inside that memory slot, which happens to be another 8. And so it'll be 8 minus 4, which again, that's pretty easy for the computer to figure out. It knows that that equals to 4, and when it figures out that equals to 4, it'll take that 4 and it'll store that into b. What does that mean? Well, it's going to store a 4 into this memory slot here, this b slot. There was an 8 there, so the first thing the computer has to do is get rid of that 8. And instead of the 8, it'll put a 4. So we started out with 2 8s in these memory slots, and as we executed a few more lines, the values in those slots changed. And now we come down to the if statement. And like I was saying, it's going to try to figure out whether this is true or false. A is greater than or equal to b. Well, similarly to these lines up here, the first thing it will do is ask itself, what is a? Have I ever seen a before? I have. It's in memory. A equals 2. That's what's stored in the a slot. So it'll take that a, it'll replace it with a 2. And then it'll say, what about b? Have I ever seen b before? And it'll look to see if it has a b slot. And it does. It has a b slot. There's a 4 in that slot. So it'll replace that b with a 4. And now it'll ask itself, is 2 greater than or equal to 4? And of course 2 is not greater than or equal to 4. So this is false. It is not true that 2 is greater than or equal to 4. So what will it do? Well, it'll skip over all of this, anything between those two curly braces. It'll start executing at the else statement. The else statement doesn't actually do anything. What it'll actually execute first is the first line after this curly brace. which is print banana. And when it sees print banana, well, if you actually ran this program, the computer would actually print out banana. I'll do it. B-A-N, there we go. Hard word to spell. There we go. So it'll print out banana, and then we're done. There aren't any lines after that. So the answer to the question, the answer to the puzzle, what will it print? Well, it prints banana. And so if I enter banana here and press submit, hey, look, I got it right, and I got an extra point. And you'll notice that it's regenerated the code here so that now I have a new puzzle. So I have 1 point. Can I get another one? Well, let me start executing lines in my head, just like the computer would. First, look at this line. It's a variable declaration. We know that because of the keyword var right here, by the way. And a variable declaration means make a spot in memory called A and save into it, in this case, the number 9. Now the second line. This declares a variable called B, which means make a spot in memory called B. And what do we put into it? A 2. Okay, how about this line? Well, A equals A minus 6. The first thing it'll do is look at the right-hand side of the equal sign. It'll take that A and it'll say to itself, what is A? It'll look into memory and see that there's a 9 in slot A, so it'll replace A with a 9. And then 9 minus 6 is 3. And it'll take that 3 and it'll put it into A, which is this slot in memory right here, which means it'll clobber the 9 and replace that now with a 3. And then the next line, B equals B minus 6. Again, we look at the right-hand side of the equal sign. The computer will ask itself, what is B? It'll look into memory. Oh, B is 2, it will say to itself. And then it will replace that B with a 2. Now 2 minus 6 is negative 4. It'll take that negative 4 and put it into B, which means it clobbers the 2 that used to be in B, and it will replace that with a negative 4. And now the if statement. If A is greater than or equal to B, the first thing the computer will do is say, well, what is A? It'll look in memory, it'll see that A is 3, it will replace that with a 3. And then it will say, what is B? And it will look in memory and see, ah, that's a negative 4. And so now we see something different from the last example. So since this is true, we're not going to execute the else like we did before. This time we're going to execute this block. There's only one line of code in this block right here, the print apple. So the computer will actually print out apple if we run this code. Apple. And so that's the answer. That's what you would type right here to try to get another point. So basically, we traced through the code and figured out what the code would do without actually having to run it and see what it did. I type in apple, and I press submit. Hey, I got it right again. I got 2 points. So see if you can get 10.